wrestling fans, and we are the degenerates that want to talk about it. Welcome to Kicking Out at 2. My name is Mike, as with me always is Tori. Hey, Tori.
Hello, how's your day?
It's pretty good. Decent day. Watched something I didn't think I'd be watching in a long time. We actually had one of our viewers uh, message us directly and ask if we would cover something for him, and of course we'll cover anything you guys want us to. He wanted us to cover the Royal Rumble 1991. This is like key point Hogan must pose era in the middle of the Iraqi sympathizer storyline. Macho King and Warrior doing their thing. A lot of stuff that I completely had forgotten about, and I had never thought I would go back to.
Very much
Um,
so.
so a couple of things just about the Rumble before we get started. This was one of the first pay-per-views that was on a Saturday. They moved it to Saturday because of football.
Really?
So it wouldn't combat with football that was going on that Sunday. Um,
Look at you doing the research.
I'm telling you. It also did well in pay-per-view buys. It was 440,000 pay-per-view buys, which was the best Royal Rumble until 1999. This Royal Rumble even did more
Oh,
buys than WrestleMania 7.
seriously?
Seriously. Yeah,
Dang, that record lasted 8 years?
yeah. Crazy, crazy stuff, man. Um, this would be also be the first Royal Rumble that would feature the format that we became used to, where the Royal Rumble winner would then go on to face the champion. So this was the first round of that.
Oh, okay.
From this point forward, with a few exceptions, 92 and 2016, for example, we'd see that every year, that the Royal Rumble winner would get the shot.
Because
So,
92 was the world championship that Ric Flair won. What
mhm.
was.
2016's when, I believe, Roman, like he had the title and he had to run through it, or maybe it was
Okay.
Brock had the title, one of the two. I know both of them tried that at one point of where I've got the
I,
title and I'm going to run through it.
I think it was Roman.
Roman 2016.
16. Well, no. Yes, it was. Because he started the Rumble, because that was AJ's debut.
That's right. That is right. Um,
Came out third, I think, and everybody was like, "Who is this?" And then he came out, and I was like, "No way!"
Yep. All right. So the very first start of it, it actually just started with Big Flag, Star Spangled Banner, All About America. Um, at the time, we had the Sergeant Slaughter versus the Ultimate Warrior, which was decked out in the American flag. So of
Wasn't
course
this
we got a
the Gulf War?
yes, it was the Gulf War that they were kind of playing around at the time. Um, there was a dark match that they actually don't show on the network. The only thing that's really interesting that to me about that is it was Jerry Sags versus Sam Houston, and so to have half of the Nasty Boys facing somebody in a dark match, it seems weird. Maybe that's because later on Knobs is in the Royal Rumble, so maybe it was just because he was there. But you would think there'd be somebody else that could pick up that match. Um, but very odd. Jerry Sags won that match, by the way, if you're ever curious. I mean, Sam Houston was just a generic cowboy, so I'm not surprised at all. He won in 5 minutes, 25 seconds. So there
I
we go.
have questions, but they're not really relevant to that. Just like,
What are your questions?
why, why have a 5 minute dark match that isn't even on the network? Like, was this like Sam Houston's tryout match, and they were like, "Nope, squash that," and put him down in 5 minutes?
Maybe, to be honest, because like I wanted to see it. Like I wanted to give this as much detail and as much research as I could. Since it's one of our listeners that are wanting this looked at, and I couldn't find a video of that match anywhere.
Oh, okay. I
So
was like, it was Knobs, wasn't it?
yeah, no, it was Sags.
Yes.
Yep, Sags versus Sam Houston. I couldn't find it anywhere. So may have just been a dark match just to get people in the door. May have been his tryout match. I don't know, because yeah, I don't remember seeing a lot of Sam Houston back in the day. So I actually had to look up who it was because I couldn't for the life of me realize who
I
that
remember
was.
him. He was just a massive jobber.
Um, The announce team for this event was Gorilla Monsoon and Rowdy Roddy Piper. Um,
Monsoon.
I really liked them together. Of course, they weren't as good as Heenan and Monsoon,
Right.
but
But that's
Roddy
the kind of,
Roddy
I
was
feel like,
fun on the mic.
yes, Roddy was great. And I feel like Heenan Monsoon was just one of those connections that you don't get a lot with. And I feel like kind of
Yeah.
the way that Pat McAfee and Michael Cole are now, you
Mm-hmm.
get some of that.
Yep.
But that Gorilla Monsoon Heenan pairing was so good.
Yeah. It was a really good pair together. Um, I was a big fan of Piper being in there, but I was trying to think back to 9-year-old me, and like I didn't question one bit that a wrestler was on the announce table. I
No,
just like whatever. It is what it
right.
is.
It was literally just, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, he's gonna do commentary. Sweet. All right. One thing it did make me miss a little bit. There was a few things that really shown out to like maybe there's some old school stuff that could come back. Is I miss an actual play by play.
Yeah.
Like Monsoon was doing real play by play, and we don't get that anymore.
Well, and Piper was doing like color,
Yeah,
and he
flat
would
out
throw in
color.
a couple moves every now. And I was like,
Yeah.
because I caught some of that too, and I was like, man, that's because it went from. I think that fell in under. I think that fell away due to the sports entertainment side of it
Mm-hmm.
because it became more about the storytelling
Right.
than what was happening in the ring. Because the next Royal Rumble was Vince on the desk.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's where we would get what a maneuver.
He was so
just
bad at
just
it.
tell me you don't know what it's called. Just it's fine.
He was so bad at it.
Well, and then like we do get a little bit of this, and it's why I always like the idea of a wrestler being on the desk because they can talk about the moves.
Yeah.
There was a moment where someone was in a side headlock. I want to say it was during.
It was the first match. It was the Rockers. It was
it?
Jannetty doing it because he talked about the positioning and where his butt, and
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, and one thing like he specifically said, he was like, you would think this is something that you're doing to try to choke them out or make them submit, but he's like, it's really not. It's just getting dominance and slowing them down.
yeah,
I'm like,
wear them down.
That's great. Like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff of tell us why this move's important. Like that's some cool stuff. So we start off the night with the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty versus the Orient Express, Kato and Tanaka with Mr. Fuji. First of all, I was a massive fan of Tanaka, and I don't know why.
Pat Tanaka was.
He was good. But I don't know why. I don't know why I was so invested in him when I was younger. However, like you couldn't beat Rocker fandom. The Rockers are great. I did forget that Jannetty was the hot tag guy though.
Yeah.
Like you automatically think that Shawn would be that guy because he's more charismatic.
It was the other way, which is why it was. But the funny thing is when I was watching this and making my own little notes, I was just like, wow, young HBK. They did a tope suicida, both of them at the same time, which was very rare in the U.S. At the time.
Yep, and they both did dives to the outside off the top turnbuckle.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The stuff that they did was well ahead of its overall well ahead of its time frame.
Absolutely.
And of course, everything going on. We got the USA chant. All I could hear in my head was Eric Bischoff. Oh, y'all know where you live. Good for you, idiots.
That's right.
I actually put a note that Piper isn't bad as a commentator.
He isn't. But Piper was really good as a commentator. He's one of the few he at no point was trying to get himself over. Like he was just talking about the people out there.
He was trying to put everybody in those matches over as much as he could.
And playing both sides of that because there was a couple of times where he was talking about Heenan and there's always like that big he'd always rag on Heenan and then he'd stop for a second and go, as much as I rag on him, he's one of the smartest guys we got out there. And it's like that's amazing to give the props while you're still he's still a prick. But
something else I noticed was just watching Shawn and Marty in the ring. Mm-hmm. Like Shawn's charisma is just oozing out.
Oh yeah.
And the black hole of charisma that is Marty Jannetty was terrible.
Yeah. Um, I think it's at this point because like I remember seeing early Rockers matches and they were about par of how they were, and I think it was around this era that Sean really started to kind of take that leap forward of he started to understand the crowd and
Yeah,
what they wanted and what they wanted to see.
I agree completely. I agree. I was watching it I was like, well, and something else I noted was it was weird to me seeing somebody throw a chop, and
Mhm.
no one in the crowd woo, like because it wasn't
That's
quite the
right.
thing.
That's
It
right.
happened
Because
repeatedly, and at the time, unless Rick was doing it, you didn't hear that, and even then, you didn't hear it all the time.
yeah, no,
But I caught it in that first match because Sean and I don't remember. I think it was Tanaka were trading shots, and nobody was doing
nobody
anything.
wooed.
It was
Wow,
just to me, I was like, "That's weird."
wow. Um,
So
so one good note to bring is, and I'm gonna let you go ahead and say it. Who was Kato?
Paul Diamond, I don't even remember Paul Diamond. So he
Really?
had a white dude in a mask with a tan. Is that what this was?
Yeah, basically. Paul Diamond. I remember a few matches with him, but in interviews that I've heard from a lot of people, he was a great hand in the ring. Like he didn't have the charisma. He was one of those like he was really good in the ring, but as soon as that light hit, like there was
He was a Brad
blank,
Armstrong.
yeah, blank stares and couldn't get past it. So put him in a mask and call him Oriental. I guess I don't know why.
Well,
Which we did to
right,
Jamie
and I
Noble
just
later on in life too. So I guess it's
right.
good company to
Well,
be
I
in.
just looked it up and I was like, Paul Diamond, because it
Yeah.
had been somebody else, but they left,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, okay. I thought the finish of this match was solid. The little
Yeah.
slingshot into a roll up, I thought that was nice.
Well, it's like you said. It's the way ahead of their time thing. So it's these smooth transitions, these smooth matches. Um, sorry, I was looking at Paul Diamond because I remembered he did something else, and he was Max Moon for a while. That's what it was. I know he
Okay,
did something
I
else.
gotcha.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, it was way ahead of its time. Some of the stuff that they were doing, and that particular type of transition into a win is massive. Like it's un it's unbelievable when it happens because you're just like, no big move happened, no big thing happened, just quick win, we're done. Um,
Well, it was the way that the motion from it was like, and I want to say it was Sean grabbed Marty by the feet
mhm.
and did that like you're going to slingshot somebody in the corner, but he did it into a roll up, and I was like, okay,
Yeah. Um, so they win at 19 minutes 15 seconds. We were chatting a little bit before we started recording about like match length, and like this match in particular, I didn't feel like it was 20 minutes.
no, I
Like
didn't either.
so,
That's why I was like, in my head, most of these were not longer than 5 to 7 minutes, like they were
yeah,
short matches.
yeah. Um, but this is definitely one of those like going back and watching this older event, something I haven't watched in years. Like I immediately thought it was going to be a slog to get through, and like this immediately changed my mind of like, okay, maybe I need to actually put effort and watch this because some of this
Right.
good stuff's happening.
Well, and like I said, I just watching it then to watching it now, there's so many different nuances
Hmm.
that I'm just like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not, it wasn't bad. It just, okay.
Well, okay. So like to me, I can look at it like specifically the sunset flip win. All right.
Right.
If that happened today, no one would really care.
They'd probably boo a finish like that unless it was like, Action Andretti and Jericho. But
Right.
any
And
regular
there's some
match, no,
cases
that's not going to float.
like Xavier Woods has coined backwoods is what his
Yeah.
little schoolboy pin is. And again, it's just it'd be dependent on who did it. But like if we just had a opening tag team match, let's say it was Hit Row versus the Usos, and the Usos won with a sunset flip, no one would care.
No. Everybody be
but
like, wait, that's it?
but that's kind of how like I had to put myself back in that mindset watching this of this is before like fantastical. This is before amazing moves. So like I can imagine like kids in the crowd because I was one of the kids watching it on TV
Right.
being having their mind blown by this Rockers match because they're doing
Right.
so many things that like is out of this world compared to what you watch. So
Very much so.
it was
Very
good.
much so. And it was a fun match, but I was just like, it was hard. It wasn't bad. It was just hard for me to get excited about these matches.
Yes, it is. It's hard to go back that far and say, okay, I'm gonna get excited about this, especially because we know where it is, we know what happened.
Right. And that doesn't
It's
mean I
hard to go
wouldn't
back.
do this repeatedly. I
Right.
just, it's hard to put myself back there for
Hmm.
numerous different factors.
Yes, we'll talk about some of those later because I
Well,
definitely had a hard time with one specific instance
right.
because
But I
of where
mean,
we are
like just
today.
personal factors too. It's hard to put myself back to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was fun. And like I
Yep.
said, this match was solid. It was a good, solid tag team match.
And it was a great opener. Like because
Yeah, very good opener.
if you're gonna end this night with a Royal Rumble, which even back then a Royal Rumble was a massive thing, lots of action, lots of familiar faces, big
Yes.
pops. Like this was a great opener for that to happen.
I didn't realize because I wasn't thinking about it when I was watching it till we started talking, but no one got their entrance
Mm-mm.
in the Rumble. I don't now. I like I said, I didn't have the volume up for some of it because of a phone call, but you didn't. I guess part of it is I'm not used to not having like the
Yeah,
Titantron.
yeah. No, they back then it was just and then they run out. There was no
Right.
music hitting. There was
No music,
no
nothing. So you
yeah.
don't know who's coming till they come through the curtain.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, because of where we are now. Like music hits and everybody's that's when the pop is. It
Yeah.
was what 2 or 3 minutes between instead of 5.
Hmm.
So it's a whole different ball game than what we get now.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, Rockers win that one. Great opener. We go backstage with Randy Savage. I love a Randy Savage interview. Like that's gonna
I
pop
love
me
Randy
every
Savage.
time.
Love
Uh, but
Randy.
but he's basically back there saying like he is guaranteed that when Slaughter wins the title, he's gonna get the first shot. Slaughter's already told him he's gonna get the first shot at it. But then he asks, well, what about the Warrior? Do you have the same deal with the Warrior? He's like, well, that's about to happen because Sherry's gonna make it happen. And so then and it's one of those production things like I wish this type of production thing would happen in today's stuff because they look at the monitor and she's coming out on the monitor,
Right.
so it's all happening in sync with each other. And
Right.
so Sherry comes out and she's basically calling out Warrior.
Right.
um
I saw that.
and this got
Did you notice that
very
his belt was like purple?
yeah, yeah.
I was like,
He was dressed all strange. I have to remember it was the early 90s. I have to remember that.
right.
um but this moment got weird very quickly because she went like she was trying to, you're an honorable man, do the honorable thing, let Macho have the first title shot, and then it turned into like her seducing Warrior, which was weird.
Right.
Um, so she ends up trying to seduce him. She kisses his fingers. He's having this weird moment where he's smelling his fingers and smiling. It was all just strange. Warrior was weird, man. Warrior was weird. So one final time he sniffs it, he spits on the ground, tells her no, he's not going to do it. Like backs her down into almost a fetal position, and then he leaves. Cut back to Macho, and again, like a programming thing I thought was kind of fun is it cut back to
Right.
Macho, and he's like, "No, you said no. I'm gonna go get you right now." And then he just sprints, and
Yeah.
then shows up in the arena, gets up there with her, helps her up. Warrior's already gone,
Yeah, he's out there throwing a fit. Like I remember, I was watching that
Yeah,
going. Yep, it's one of those you remember how good Macho was.
absolutely. I love I just everything about Mach because he made sure that if you were going to remember
It was going to
anything,
be him.
yeah, just absolutely insane.
It's one of those that at the time when like now it's who can match the night. Like you have certain people you put them together, you're gonna have a hard time topping that. And
Yeah,
Macho made sure that was him on every show.
absolutely. Um, so that leads us to the Big Boss Man versus the Barbarian. This is about the time that my daughter came in while I was watching this. Um, and I had to let her know, like, this guy was a guy that I idolized when I was a kid. Big Boss Man, because I've always been a chunky guy. Even when I was small, I was a chunky kid.
Right,
And this chunky dude that's not built of muscle, because sorry, she actually came in the tail end of the Warrior thing, and she was
right,
like, do all the people look like this back then? Like all of them are jacked up muscle dudes? And I'm like, yeah, most of them were, because that's what they thought made a lot of money and did make a lot of money. I mean, just to be honest, back then.
right.
And so that's why like this type of guy that was a guy I gravitated towards because it's just a normal dude that's out here wrestling and making a living. So it was really kind of cool. So um, we had Heenan out there with Barbarian. Barbarian at
Love
the time was
him.
part of the Heenan family. Uh, Heenan shenanigans are always fun. Um, what was really fun about this for me though is Piper playing double duty on this one specifically because he was talking about like how incredulous and how dastardly Heenan is, but in the same breath was like, but he's one of the smartest managers we got here. He's one of the best managers we got here.
Right.
So him giving him roses while still calling him uh, the most dastardly person there. Um, the tail end of this, Bossman hit the Bossman slam, but it was delayed to make the cover. Barbarian got his hand on the ropes to stop it at two. Barbarian with an eye poke, which
Oh,
I
the old
love.
school eye
Yeah,
poke.
old school eye poke. We actually, me and my daughter had talked about the eye poke in the slaughter match later on. Um, Bossman sold it like a big move uh, when he was hit with a pile driver.
Yeah.
Uh, Barbarian went to the top and he jumped off with a cross body block. Bossman rolled through and landed on top for a pin. So it's another one of those like it didn't end with a big move. It was just like he caught him sleeping with the pin.
Right.
And
This was very much back in the those kind of things were normal and we were okay with it.
yeah, absolutely. Because that kind of stuff would happen, and like you could see it in the crowd. The crowd was going insane for it. You
Yeah.
know,
They love to
their
mess up.
man won, and it doesn't matter how he won.
Boss texted us.
Hmm?
She asked the question.
Yes, you did for you all. That's
She said 2 out of 5. She expects everyone to answer.
You just live there, right?
yep, that's right. Hold on, I gotta write a time code down. Cause kids be crazy.
You know.
Apparently, Hillary is making Christmas shirts, and she texted the kids, "Do you want a Christmas shirt?" And apparently, that was also for me and Justin. And I'm
No,
like,
no, you
"Me
don't.
too?
No.
Sure. All right. I don't care. Whatever." No, because
She opened the door. She sent it to everybody. It's fair game.
she'll make me a fun one. Like she sent me a thing earlier of a shirt she's gonna make for Chad. It's a stick figure with no arms, and it says "Knock knock, who's there?" Not Bob, because Bob has no arms. Like, all right then.
It shouldn't be funny, but it's funny.
Yeah, I
Are
know.
you Are you time stamping to delete this part?
Yes, absolutely. I am.
Because I didn't try to voice that at all. That's awful. And I ask her if she'll make an extra one of those for Grace.
Okay. I'll see what we can do.
Because Grace would get it. She'd think that was hilarious.
Okay. Yeah. So up to about 26. Say. All right. So, I mean, overall though, it was a good match.
Yeah.
Boss Man was always good. Like he was one of those I thought was always underrated.
I was getting ready to say the same thing. That Ray trailer was one of the most underrated guys, regardless of where he was, what company he was in. That sidewalk slam that he did, which basically was, it basically was like a precursor to the End of Days
Mm-hmm.
that Baron Corbin does.
Yep.
And that Abyss used the black hole slam, same
Yep.
type of thing.
Was pretty much almost a carbon copy of the Boss Man.
Right. But it just, Boss Man was so, it's one of those, had he been a little more slender, that sliding out, running back in clothesline that Corbin does, he could have easily pulled off.
Oh yeah, because he like kind of again a precursor to that move is he used to slide out into the bottom rope when someone's laying against the second rope, and he would uppercut him.
Oh, that's right.
Like that was a normal move for him, and
That's
it was always so smooth. He would just run, slide, bam.
He was. Did he ever have? He never had. He's one of those that never won the world title, and
Never won a world title.
He didn't have the following to carry it in terms of the fan base. Even as the Boss Man, the IC title was his world title, and he carried it well.
Yeah, he definitely. So, like, he's one of those I don't think he ever needed the world title.
Right.
He very much was that mid to upper card. Like he was right in that area.
I mean,
not a mid player, mid to upper card.
Right. I'm still never gonna forget the Big Show's dead dad.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff booking at its finest.
Was that Bischoff?
It was WCW.
No, I think that was after he came to WWE.
Was it?
I think so.
Was that a Vince?
I think that. I think it was the other Vince. I think it was a Russo.
Was that a Russo?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was because Pritchard was there. He was the one that was directing it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. The promos were always great. Yo, dead daddy. It's great stuff. While you fact check that, we had the next match, which was the Ultimate Warrior versus Sergeant Slaughter, with General Adnan.
Oh my God, it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was him versus the Big Show for the title,
Yep.
the WWF title.
Yep. I think at that era he could have won that, but that's neither here nor there.
Wow. I thought for sure that was a WCW.
It sounds like a WCW.
Right.
But then again, you got to remember in WWF, Boss Man also made Al Snow eat his own dog.
It's true. It's true.
So, yeah. So my daughter was in here for this match, and even at 13 years old, a kid looked at this and went, "Dad, none of this would fly today, would it?" And absolutely not. You have an Iraqi general that
for Slaughter Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. So you have an Iraqi general that's bringing a Iraqi sympathizer to the ring with an Iraqi flag.
And the Iron Sheik's boots.
Yes. And the key note to this real quick. I had mumbled to myself that was really smart, and my daughter asked me why, and it's because of Monsoon was saying, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that Iraqi Americans and people that are actually in Iraq mostly don't think like these people.
Right. Did he
Pointing
really?
out, pointing out like
Okay, I didn't catch
these are
that.
extremists, these are outliers, like trying to smooth
Okay.
over the. We realize we're
Okay.
doing something here.
We're
Not
doing something
everybody's
that
like this.
we're doing something that
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was funny because she was like, none of this would fly today. I'm like, no, honey, like we couldn't have, a Muslim terrorist sympathizer doing
we
that.
tried that. They
Yeah.
fired him after that thing with the Undertaker.
Yep. Very unfortunate too because he was
Mohammed Hassan, was that
yeah,
his name?
yep.
Yeah,
Muhammad
that kid
Hassan.
was talented as hell
He was
too.
talented as hell. It was very unfortunate that like a terrorist attack happened, very
And just
similar to what happened to the Undertaker, and they're just like, all right, we got to wash our hands.
they had to scrap that. They cut him. He never
He,
recovered.
no, he did some indie stuff a couple of years back, and like just now is
Really?
starting to get back out on the scene.
Okay. He was
Yeah,
really young at the time too, though.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's where we got the Davaris.
Mm-hmm.
Was that storyline?
Yep, absolutely. Um,
Because Arya wasn't that the older brother? No, it
yeah,
was
no,
now I can't remember his name.
let's see, Sean Davari.
Sean wrestled as he was hella talented too.
They just called him Davari,
They okay, yeah.
and then Arya came later.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Mark Julian Capani, so it was a Italian playing a Muslim.
Gotcha.
Interesting. So
He's a school principal.
mhm. So they come out, and then Warrior comes out, does his adrenaline-filled run to the ring, which the fans at the time are going insane for. Um, I mean, it's what you expect a Warrior match to be. A lot of high impact moves and him kind of not selling a lot of stuff.
He was the original 5 moves of doom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was what Vince wanted him to be. He was larger than life,
Oh yeah,
unbeatable,
100%.
unfazable.
100%.
This was day 293 of the Ultimate Warrior's first and only WWF title reign.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So they go back and forth. I mean, basic stuff: whip to the corner, clotheslines, bear hugs, that kind of thing. And then Sensational Sherry comes out to ringside to watch the match because Slaughter promised Macho King that he was going to have a shot. Warrior went after her when she grabbed his boot. Talking about Warrior.
Right.
So then he chased her up the aisle, but Macho King was waiting for her and attacked him. The cool note about this is with the announcers being up front, Gorilla and Piper both made it seem like they didn't see that attack.
They weren't up front though. They were behind the crowd by the
Oh,
aisle.
they were. That's weird. Okay, yeah, but they'd mentioned later in the match or after the match, excuse me, that they didn't see that attack.
I
So
think
they didn't know.
did they not see the attack in the aisleway, or did they not see when he cracks him with the scepter at the ring?
No, they didn't see the attack in the like towards the back of the entryway.
Okay.
So either way, he gets a cheap shot, and so at this point, then he runs off, Sherry runs off, and Warrior's crawling to the ring. Psychology wise, doesn't make a lot of sense because if Slaughter is offering you the first title match, if he wins by countout, he doesn't get the title. So just odd psychology note. However, Slaughter does kind of make up for that because he's stopping Hebner every time he gets close to 10.
Right. I saw that, which again is really good ring psychology stuff.
Yeah. Well, and another thing to me is, so my daughter with me watching it, she was like, well, why doesn't he go out there and get him? I was like, well, think about it this way. If this guy just got beat down and now he's having to use all his energy just to get back to the ring,
Right.
let him use it all.
Yeah.
And then when he gets in the ring, he's easy pickings. So that was another thing where I was like, that's good psychology. Let him crawl his way all the way back over here while you get to rest. Which you could also tell Slaughter was pretty blown up at this point. He was heavy breathing.
He was in terrible shape at the time.
So Slaughter slaps on the camel clutch over by the rope, so the Warrior's feet were under the bottom rope, which meant that he had to let go of it. Warrior did his rope shaking power up routine, punch to the face, 3 clotheslines, running shoulder tackle by the Warrior. This was the other attack that we were talking about. So Sherry ran to the ring again, this time with the scepter in her hand. Sherry was on the apron. Warrior let Slaughter go, and he flipped Sherry into the ring. Love Sherry. She was
gorgeous too.
She always took these hits and didn't care. Well, that was so. Yeah, she's always gorgeous. She made a wardrobe change.
I noticed
in the midst of this show.
I noticed that
because she came out and my daughter looks at her and goes, "Oh my God, so pretty!" Like just talking about like the
white dress.
Well, no, it was like a gray sequin or a silver sequin was the last one she came out with.
Oh yeah,
and it's like wow. Just like I'm just gonna change dresses. We're gonna do that. So then Warrior pressed Sherry over her head. Macho King went to the ring. So Warrior tossed Sherry over the top onto Macho to the floor.
Which is a pretty incredible little feat. I mean, I know Sherry doesn't weigh a lot, but just to be able to hold her up and throw it, just to make it look good and protect her at the same time.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it's just, I cannot believe how much she put her body through just for like the entertainment of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely crazy. So that led to the key spot in the match. Slaughter went back towards the ring. The referee admonished him for the choking, and Savage hit Warrior in the head with a scepter. The referee never saw that happen. Slaughter with an elbow drop and a cover to win at 12 minutes 47 seconds. So that's where we stood. Pinfall and new WWF champion Sergeant Slaughter. That Iraqi sympathizer bastard.
I can't even imagine somebody trying to do that now.
Yep. And we got a version of a fecal matter chant. I forgot that this kind of stuff even happened back in the day. You had the fans yelling bullshit in response to the finish. So they kind of waited a little bit to announce the winner, because I guess they were trying to make it sound like, well, we've got like WWF officials here, like they're going to overturn this, they're going to do this, and then like it was a couple of minutes later, and then they're like, and new. So it was a cool little thing.
Well, and I'm sure some of that was, we need to make sure these people are not going to riot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was a pretty strong reaction at that time.
Yeah. For fans, like, fans were so easily, and I don't mean this to insult fans back in the day, because I was one of them, were so easily placated.
I'll insult them. Yeah, no, that's 100%.
You stroll Warrior, you stroll Hogan out there and have them, like, pose and do their thing, and the fans love it. And so them yelling bullshit to a match
was pretty big.
That's pretty big for the time. That's definitely that's definitely a weird thing. But so him getting this win, him being slaughtered in such a cheap manner, definitely got him some heat, which is what he was there for. Like, he was supposed to be the heat magnet for this. Fun little note is he had to actually stay there the entire show, and even a couple hours after the show, before he left.
For safety reasons.
For safety reasons. They were afraid of what was going to happen if he left there.
It was such a hot button thing.
Yeah, it
Like it
was
was just
crazy.
the closest thing I can think of, and even the calling it the modern era. I don't know if I even want to do that because of when it was, but ECW's One Night Stand.
Yeah,
Had Cena won that match, I don't know how that would have gone.
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm not surprised at all they made Slaughter stay. They're not. He literally could have gotten mobbed.
Yeah. Um, so there's also a couple of theories about this particular um, move here. So uh, there was thought of it being at an outdoor venue, and there's two thoughts of theories that have been said. One was
Okay.
that there were slow ticket sales, and so they
Okay.
decided not to have it in an outdoor arena because there had been more tickets.
Right.
The other was because of the heat that Slaughter was getting, with the whole Gulf War thing going on, having an open arena where like security would be a little tougher to not let people in. Now maybe that's overthinking it a little too much because yeah, but it's still a nice little.
It was a very hot button issue at the time. I don't. I have a hard time feeling like somebody would have brought a weapon, but maybe
Yeah, I mean
it was. It was.
I'm not saying it's impossible. Is it
Yeah.
plausible? Not really, but definitely possible. I mean,
Yeah.
there's crazy people out there, and I don't mean to say it this way insultingly, but there are Americans out there that have no problem sniping somebody from 500 feet away. I'll give you a second to.
It wasn't me this time. It wasn't me this time.
Yep.
That's all.
They all have NFT gifs now, so it's fine. Um, Speaking of NFTs, today I read that WWF has applied for trademark for their logo for NFTs. So I think they're going to get in the NFT business. I don't like it either, but it's a big thing. I get it. I'm
Whatever.
not buying one, but
But you could have had the best one. It was $100. I couldn't even do it with a straight face.
with lasers out of his face. Um,
Did you notice how? You know what? No, we're just
Yeah.
keep. I'm gonna stop.
Yep.
I'm gonna stop.
In fact, actually,
It's gonna turn into a political podcast instead of wrestling if I'm not careful.
so the next match, we have the Mountie with Jimmy Hart versus Coco Beware with
Well, the
Frankie.
Mountie.
Go ahead.
Here's my thing with this match. Wasn't very long, was it? 9 minutes.
No, it was 9 minutes.
Well, and the funny thing was, I saw Coco and I was like, we were just talking about him.
Yep.
My thing with the Mountie is the only thing I remember from him that was any good. I want to say it was his feud with either Piper or Goldust. Like,
no, he had a good thing with Boss Man. That was one of his biggest ones.
maybe that's what it was. It was that whole back and forth with Boss Man about how I'm from Canada and we're better than you cops, blah blah blah.
And that's
The
where
Canada card.
that's where the cattle prod came from because
Yes,
he had the nightstick and then he had a cattle prod.
You think Scott Hall gave him that back after he took title off Goldberg?
Well, Nash booked that whole thing, for him to beat Goldberg and then immediately lose the title in a finger poke of doom. Like, he booked that. Anyway, so yeah, we were just talking about Coco the other day. Like, and this match to me showed it even more. Like, Coco was ahead of his time. He looked really good in this, and he made the Mountie look good too.
Oh yeah,
He
was good enough that he could carry people. I was just trying to think of. I'm not saying he was Shawn level, but he could definitely make people look good.
He could. So, uh, towards the end of this match, Coco went up. He jumped off for a missile dropkick that barely connected. He was distracted by Hart on the apron. Coco then did a crossbody off the middle ropes for a 2 count. Coco ran the ropes, ducked a clothesline, did a leapfrog, and Mountie hit him with a move almost like a choke slam into a slam, and then got him for a pinfall. 9 minutes, 12 seconds. A couple of just a key fun moments of this for me was Jimmy Hart like mouthing at the bird. Like he was
I
just
saw
up
that.
in the bird's face. Like, what are you gonna do? What are you?
I'm like, I hope that bird bites your face off, bitch.
Uh,
Jimmy was so good.
he was.
Honestly, I think he doesn't get near enough love
Mhm.
because of his association with Hogan.
I don't disagree because I think, well, so the Hogan of it aside, like not even just with that, I think a lot of people tend to forget how big he was in this time period of being a manager because when he moved to WCW with Hogan, like that was his role.
It was all Hogan all the time.
Yep. Except for when he was with Dungeon of Doom for a little bit, and we all want to forget that.
Everybody wants to forget that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you have a Bakasha or whatever it is strap match, greatest match in the world. So this match, just a little programming note, was cut off the VHS version. So I don't know if it was for time's sake or if there was
The
someone
Mountie Coco match was?
Yeah, yep, it was cut out for the VHS tape.
Really?
So interesting. I don't know. I don't know. So we're backstage with Macho King and Queen Sherry, where they're being interviewed by Sean Mooney. I miss Sean Mooney. He was one of my
He was
favorites
great.
back in the day. Macho said that he was the greatest of all time, and Warrior should have made the commitment to make Macho the #1 contender. So now he's after Slaughter. Or now he's going after Slaughter, excuse me. There were loud noises in the hallway, and you assume it's Warrior trying to beat down the door.
And he booked.
He booked. Macho went, "Ooh, no," and then ran off.
Sound like the Kool-Aid Man.
The new WWF champion Sergeant Slaughter and General Adnan were also interviewed by Mean Gene Okerlund. Okerlund, so good. This was hilarious because my daughter was also in here for this, and she was laughing so hard at Slaughter because he was all hunched over with the chin sticking out as far as he could. She is just cracking up.
Because that chin was that was the thing of legend.
Yeah, Slaughter. I mean, Slaughter's interviews were always the same: heel or face, really. Call people maggots, say that 150 times, and then say that you're going to win. And that's pretty much all that happened. He called people maggots, said he was going to win, and we were done.
Yeah.
That led to Monsoon and Piper complaining about Slaughter's title win again. They showed a little interview with fans being delivered to the troops. There was also a mention during this little thing that I guess Hogan wanted to do a tour with the WWF to the War Zone, but they couldn't get it approved. And so...
No, that would have been a horrible risk.
Well, and so here's the thing, like, Hogan today aside, if this is true, because I didn't get to look up to see if he actually did, he said he was planning to go himself then. Since he can't go with the entire WWF, he was going to go over there.
I don't believe that he did.
I don't know. I didn't get a chance
If
to
he
fact check
did,
that.
if he did, it was the one time he was glad there were no cameras. For the only time in his life, and I mean that does include everything we know about Hogan.
Yep.
But yeah, there's no chance if he actually went and Vince knew about it, Vince doesn't send a TV team. There's
Absolutely.
no chance.
Absolutely. Or at least like one dude with a camcorder.
Right. So I was curious about Jimmy Hart, so I decided to do some checking.
Mm-hmm.
So he had Valentine, and then he had Valentine and Beefcake until he was phased out and gave control to Johnny Valiant. came back managing Bundy till he sold Bundy to Heenan for the
Mhm.
missing link in Adrian Adonis. He managed Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And then he teamed them up to make the Hart Foundation.
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was the one that created the Hart Foundation. Well, according to storyline.
The Danny Davis was managed by Jimmy Hart too.
Mhm.
And then in '85, he had the Funk family in it, which was Terry and Haas Funk, as well as their kayfabe brother Jimmy Jack Funk.
Mhm.
Who's that? Jimmy Garvin? No, this is nobody. Okay, cool. The Honky Tonk Man, when he turned heel, became Jimmy Hart, which they nicknamed him the Colonel, which is awful.
Mhm. They called him that in this match, so
And yeah, he was still using that 4 years later.
yeah.
He managed the women's tag champions Judy Martin and Leilani Kai. That's a name I haven't heard in forever. He won the Manager of the Year in '87, and he won it again in '94. That's what I'm saying. Because of his association with Hogan, he did a ton of stuff.
He did. Well, and also that, and just like with shoot interviews and such being a thing, like I think he also got just a bad rap because the one thing that they always say is a few things, excuse me, that they always say is one, that he was a hard worker, like he was always willing to work,
right?
But he was willing to work if it meant he could go out on camera. So like there was one WCW particular pay-per-view that he managed all the heels that were on that card just so he could be out there for every match.
Seriously.
Yeah. So, but here's my thing. Make your money, man. Make your money. Like,
get that paper, bro. Whatever.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I will manage the Brooklyn Brawler if it means I can go out there one more time. So this leads us to a Royal Rumble promo melody. This is something I kind of miss. I know it wouldn't fly as well today because it has to have people like do quick one-liners and be very quick with what they're trying to get the point to, and that's not how interviews go today. But it was basically just a line of people saying a little thing of how they're going to win the Rumble or what the problem is in the Rumble, starting with Jake, Earthquake, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Texas Tornado, Legion of Doom, Sock and Animal, Undertaker with Brother Love, excuse me, and seeing Pritchard in that makeup again. Ah, God. So
love,
good.
Brother Love.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Ho! The model Rick Martel.
Why are you calling me names? We just started.
Well, I call a spade a spade. Intercontinental Champion Mr. Perfect with Bobby Heenan, and love Tugboat was last. It's always fun to see these things like back in the day. I wish there was a way this could translate today where they would do just a little thing like that. It would be more difficult though, because having them say a quick 10-second thing about what they're going to do isn't something that people I think could really get across.
I think with the right people you could.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is one of those that with the right people, because if you ran, say, okay, I don't know who's going to be in the Rumble, obviously, but they had what, 6, 7 people that did this, something like that.
Yeah, you were tight.
Okay, Sammy, KO, AJ, Finn. I know there's others, but that's just off the top of my head. The first 4 that came to mind.
Yeah.
You could easily do something like that. I mean, you could do it with the women's division too. Ricochet, Braun. Like you could literally do this. I think they could. I think they could make it work.
I don't know. Just a fun thought. Like if they had that kind of thing today. So this leads to the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and Virgil being interviewed by Sean Mooney. DiBiase said people wonder why Virgil does a bunch of deplorable things. I'm not going to repeat the things he said he makes Virgil do. But he says he does it for money. and the Rhodes may have a family bond, but he has the best bond
Uh,
of all, which is money.
I didn't hear this one because, like I said, phone call.
Mm-hmm.
How bad was that?
This like the lowest point was picking dog crap off his shoes. Like that was the lowest point of the statement. Um, man, it's the '90s.
Things. I'll take things that wouldn't fly for 400, Alex.
Oh, this match was full of those too. So Dusty and Dustin make their entrance to a nice ovation from the crowd. Nice little point to this is after this Royal Rumble, it's when Dustin and Dusty left. This was
Both of
their
them left?
Yep, both of them left. So this was kind of like
Really?
the last hurrah for them. Which the hurrah ended very poorly. Um, so this was Dustin's first pay-per-view though. Teddy DiBiase and Virgil were the next to come out.
That $1 million
So
belt was so pretty.
it is. It's so well. It's pretty, but it's one of those things. Like if someone brought that out today, like when they tried to do the thing with uh, LA Knight and Cameron Grimes with it looked so awkward being being out there. It was so weird. Um, so interesting point during the match. Roddy Piper was saying a lot of how he and Virgil had went out to lunch, and he was talking to him about like what he deserves and what he should do, and that they paid for the lunch. They did. It wasn't an extravagant lunch. They
Right.
tipped a modest amount, and they walked to their cars, like talking about how he's kind of in Virgil's ear, which kind of precursored what ended up happening towards the end of the match.
Right.
So towards the end of the match, we had a moment where Dustin is being held by Teddy DiBiase, and Virgil's going to haul off and hit him. He moves. He ends up hitting DiBiase. He's apologizing. You could tell he's frustrated by what just happened. He just kind of pats him on the back, and he's going to go walk back to the corner, I guess just to wait for a tag or what have you. And then at that point, Ted DiBiase pops up, lays into Virgil, both verbally and physically. DiBiase then tossed Virgil out of the ring. Dusty got the hot tag. He unloaded some punches on DiBiase, did a corner splash, which connected. A second corner attack missed, and DiBiase got the roll-up win. So another one of those where, like, not a big finish. Just kind of lucked into it.
Right.
So he ends up getting the pinfall on Dusty at 9 minutes, 57 seconds. This was a harder one for me to get through, just because of some of the things that were happening in the storyline and on commentary. At one point, Monsoon says something about Virgil's master, and then he immediately tries to backtrack it. I'll give him all the credit in the world. He tries to backtrack. He goes, well, that's, maybe Virgil wouldn't have said it that way, but, like, and Roddy's trying to stick up for it. He goes, yeah, no, that's not something he would say. So trying to immediately back out of, I just said something that probably I shouldn't have said.
Can you imagine that now with social media being what it is?
Dude, that already happened. Jim Cornette making the fried chicken remark with it was Murdoch in WWE. I can't think of his name now.
Trevor. Talking about Trevor Murdoch from WWE?
Yeah. I can't think what his name is now. He's in NWA.
Yeah, no, he's their champ, I think.
No, Titus is their champ currently. Trevor was the champ, and then he got beat by Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona got beat by Magnus. Magnus got beat by Titus, if I remember correctly. So while you're looking over that,
I think he's still Trevor Murdoch.
he may be.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's still Trevor Murdoch.
Um,
Makes me wonder if he trademarked it before they could.
maybe. As I said earlier, this put an end to Dusty's nearly 2-year run with the WWF. While Dusty also left with him. They were back in NWA WCW shortly after this. And then, of course, Dustin would return 4 years later, become Gold Dust, and becomes a phenomenon. So, of course, Dusty and Dustin had to do the job on the way out. This time period, no surprise at that at all. Post-match, DiBiase had a microphone in his hand. The chants were fanning Virgil. It's probably the only time that's ever happened. So he's sitting there telling him, hey, I'm the $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. I've got money. Virgil, get in the ring. Give me my belt. Put it around my waist. Virgil grabs the belt, gets in the ring, and throws it down at his feet. DiBiase then is saying, no, I pay you. I've got a lot of money. Put the belt around my waist. In which case, Virgil picked up the title, which DiBiase was laughing about it, and then turned his back so he could put it on it. Said everybody's got a price. And then Virgil hit DiBiase with a $1 million title to a huge pop from the crowd. So I'm really glad Virgil got a pop. Now he has no fans. So it is what it is.
Moving along.
Yep. So Hogan's then being interviewed by Mean Gene Okerlund. Today, Hogan aside, I mean, those two together are always magic. However, this particular one, Hogan seems to forget what he's saying. He just kind of talked himself into a corner and was like, you know what I'm saying. Which Okerlund just covers it up. Yeah, I know. And then they pitch it off. It's like, all right. So...
That's what happens when you take that many steroids.
It happens. So now we're at the point where we're getting the Royal Rumble match. This is the first year also, just a key little note, that the Fink didn't explain the rules before the match. So
really?
they're assuming everybody's picked up on it now, and so we're just going to move on with the match.
And now the announcers do it.
Mm-hmm. The number one entrant was Bret Hart. Start off mid. It's okay. This was the year where he'd start a singles career as a babyface, and no one cared. Number 2 was Dino Bravo. Dino Bravo was one of those, like, I always thought he was, like, it looks like he should be great. And I just never got him. I never understood it. He almost was eliminated immediately, but was able to hold on. And then the number 3 spot was Greg the Hammer Valentine, who used to be an associate of Jimmy Hart.
Yes.
Valentine eliminated Bravo. This was about at the 3-minute mark, give or take.
Yep.
Yay, I remembered stuff. Bret tried to eliminate Valentine as number 4 comes in, which is Paul Roma. Nice to see a good Paul Roma sighting.
Right.
Power and Glory, man. That was a team that I actually embarrassingly liked back in the day.
Hercules and Paul Roma, they were something.
Yep. However, Paul Roma comes out and the crowd goes mild.
Crowd goes to get some peanuts.
Yeah, Roma never really got over. Which is sad. Like you look at him and you think like he would be a superstar. He's got the look. I mean, he's a good-looking dude. He was stacked to hell as far as muscles.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But again, like that light comes on, and there's nothing there.
And he goes mild.
Yeah. So we hear probably for the 500th time, "No friends, only foes." That was kind of the title of the pay-per-view this year. That was the card at the bottom of Royal Rumble.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so they said that a bunch of times during this match. The number 5 man that came out was Texas Tornado. He was very popular.
Very Von Erich.
Yeah, very popular. Mid-card babyface. Never really made it past that tier.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's another one of those where like you look at him and you think this guy's main event.
He had all the tools except for charisma.
Yep. Tornado decked Valentine with a tornado punch. What are the odds that the Texas Tornado in 1991 could pass the WWE Wellness Policy Act? Could he do that today? Gonna guess not. Then again, that's most of the roster. Most of the roster probably couldn't pass that wellness check today.
Not getting chances today. Nope.
And sad part is, I'm not even talking about steroids.
I know you're not. I'll take Booger Sugar for 200, Alex.
That's right. The backstage looked like powdered donuts all over the place. That's why Earthquake stayed there. He just thought there was powdered sugar everywhere.
You might want to go ahead and write this time frame down too.
No, I'm moving on with it. Rick Martel comes out at number 6. He was a heel with his arrogance perfume at the time. The basic gimmick of that is he would spray someone in the eyes. Led to a fun feud with him and Jake Roberts later on. So, but this was kind of the start of that. So he started this gimmick. We had talked a little bit off camera about that. It seems to be that they were trying to push him for something because he stayed in there a long time and he looked really good in the Rumble. So I don't know if there was plans for him after this at the time that just didn't come to fruition or what. But
I don't know. He was in there. He set the record, didn't he?
Yeah, he set the record. It was
52 minutes and 17 seconds.
Yeah, that was the second record that was made tonight. We'll talk about that one a little bit later. So Roma and Martel worked together. I believe they were a tag team at one point, if I remember correctly. So that may just be a callback to that.
At one point, they were.
So they worked together on Hart, and then Roma decked Martel with a clothesline. Only foes, man. Only foes. Piper loved it as the heels fought each other. Number 7 out was Saba Simba, who you might know as Tony Atlas.
I just saw that. Well, the funny thing is, I was watching this. I thought it was Bob Sapp at first.
Okay.
Like, it didn't occur to me his age at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been really young, but Sapp was a huge guy.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, I just looked at that. I was like, who the hell is Saba Simba? And then I was like, that's Tony Atlas.
Yes, this was so, Doom at the time had broke up. And then they brought in Tony Atlas, but like they told him we don't want to bring you in as Tony Atlas. We want to bring you as something else. And so then they pitched him the Saba Simba gimmick, and as interviews have said, I am not saying this, as interviews have said, he has never wanted to turn down a paycheck. So thus he's Saba Simba.
Okay.
Tornado almost eliminated Martel, but he hung on. Tornado put the claw on Roma, which is nice. Him breaking out his family move of the claw. It's really good. Number 8 entrant was Bushwhacker Butch, who goes around the ring with his little dance, comes in, immediately gets thrown out, and continues to walk to the back.
No.
What?
That was Luke.
Oh, that was Luke. You are correct.
Butch was in there for a solid bit.
That's right.
I was
jumping ahead.
I loved the Bushwhackers. I don't know why. They weren't any good.
They weren't, but
there was so much, and that's stupid. Just
as they've said in interviews, like they've been asked a lot. Like, you were the sheep herders. You were some of the most like evil, conniving, like blood sport type of people. How could you come to WWE and become idiots? And they said, money. We can bleed on the indies.
There was a lot of, I'll do whatever for a paycheck back then.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but you're right. I'm thinking ahead. I stopped looking at notes and immediately started thinking about a Bushwhacker being thrown out. And it was the wrong Bushwhacker. Right. So Simba picked up Roma, goes to eliminate him, but Roma escaped and Simba was gone after just over 2 minutes of action. The crowd loved the Bushwhackers. You do too. So
I did. Yeah,
yep,
I did. I was a Bushwhacker
I
fan.
I did too. I was always more of a Butch fan than a Luke fan. Not that I ever thought they were going to break them up, because what do you do if you break up the Bushwhackers?
Right.
That would make no sense at all. Um, Number 9 was Jake Roberts. I was a massive Jake Roberts fan back in the day. Even his heel stuff, like he was just so
Rings.
captivating.
His ring psychology was second to none.
Absolutely, and him like revitalizing what an interview was. So like everybody's out there yelling, screaming, being loud, and like he made you lean into the TV because you could barely hear him, and make you sit
Yeah.
and pay that much attention to your interview because you're doing it so differently is just so smart.
Well, and he said it was one of those things he said in interviews was, like you said, people get out there, they yell, they get loud, and he would just keep it quiet and talk, but he always got his point across, and you always knew he meant business. And if he said something, he was going to go out there and do it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, I loved Jake Roberts. Even when he showed up in AEW with Lance Archer, I was here for it.
Yeah. So he goes immediately after Rick Martel, who would be his WrestleMania 7 opponent in a blindfold match. So we're already in the swing of that rivalry between him and Martel. The crowd wanted the DDT so bad. They were just anxious for him to get it.
Right.
Jake hit his short arm lefty clothesline, but Martel then left the ring through the bottom ropes. Jake chased him back in. Roddy Piper makes a nice little note to make sure everybody understands, like, hey, they slipped out under the ropes. It's completely legal. You know, they have apparently, he said standing 10 count. So I'm guessing at the time, like, that was the rule. It's like you could go outside, but you had a standing
I
10 count and be out
guess.
there. I don't know if that was just him, like, ribbing on the square, trying to hurry up and, like, riff out something to make it make sense, or if that was an actual thing. Honestly, I kind of like that if that's a thing.
If you go out there, you have X amount of time to get back in, or
Yep.
you're
Or you're
eliminated.
done.
Yeah, that'd definitely
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yep. I mean, at that point, then we could squash the whole, Curtis Axel thing. No, you're out for longer than 10, man. You're done. The number 10 entrant was Hercules, who was Paul Roma's partner at the time, Power and Glory. There are a total of 8 guys in the ring, as we are third way through this match. Number 11 was Tito Santana. That was another one, like, I knew I should like him, but I didn't know why, and I wasn't really into him. I didn't understand
Right.
it. I always felt like a different nationality, but I always felt like they were trying to kind of push him like you would push Ricky Steamboat. Like he's the nationality hero for
Tito?
the Spanish
Yeah.
people. Yeah, and it's like I don't care. I don't care about you. I'm sorry.
He was one of those that again, great in the ring
Mm-hmm.
until you put a microphone in his hand.
Yep. Nothing there.
I just, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody at some point called him the flying burrito, and it just stuck in my head.
It
And I
certainly
was
did. I
like,
remember that.
that's so horrible, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. So at that point, we have Roma charging at Jake. He ducked, and Roma went flying over the top rope to be the next elimination. Santana was very close to eliminating Martel. Valentine tried to get rid of Tito. Bret Hart then saved him, and then it's number 12, The Undertaker. Dude,
This is some old Undertaker.
Yeah, well, and even still looking at him like in that, like not as scared as I was as a 9-year-old, but
right,
he still looks really
it's
damn
still
intimidating.
intimidating.
Like I can imagine just being in that ring and seeing that guy walk up. Of course, at the time,
Yeah,
as we mentioned, Brother Love was there with him. He did a double choke on Brett, and Undertaker eliminated him. That looked really painful when he hit. Like he didn't seem to really care, which rightfully so. Like that character at that point should just be tossing folks.
right.
Like, no abandon, no issues. They had him eliminate. They should have had him, in my opinion, eliminate a few more guys right off the bat. Like I think that would have been a little more impactful. Some of the Tito's, the Rome, like Rome already had been eliminated. Excuse me, but just that level, like a couple of those
Right.
guys out real quick probably would have been good. Um, then we had Jimmy Snuka at number 13. Um, Not gonna make a joke there. Just gonna keep going.
Nope. Just
Undertaker eliminated Butch. The facial expressions of Undertaker were great in this era. Like he looked just like a monster.
and he was a monster at the time. Like
Yeah,
this was early Undertaker.
yeah. Number 14 was British Bulldog. This was one of his babyface runs. Um,
He was in there for a good while too,
he
36
was,
minutes.
he was. And then Smash from Demolition comes out. Martel was scaling the apron, and he eliminated Jake. So a little good setup for the WrestleMania 7 match there. Getting ready going. Hawk from Legion of Doom comes out. Is what it is. Uh, he goes in there and he just doesn't sell anything. Like he's Hawk from Legion of Doom, and I guess that's the only reason why I can't sell anything. I don't know. Number 17 entrance is a wild Shane Douglas with long blonde hair. Man, I forgot that he used to look like that. Everything okay over there?
I dropped tweezers on my desk as a glass top.
Okay.
I'm fidgeting just because I've been fidgety tonight.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, Shane Douglas comes out.
we have a Shane Douglas sighting.
Yeah, doing an energetic, bland babyface gimmick. So that's where we were with him. Number 18, we get nobody because it was supposed to be Randy Savage, but Randy Savage left the building because of the Warriors situation from earlier. So nice little storytelling there. It's good that they planned to have him in the match and then have him not show up. It kind of made that storyline a little bit deeper.
Oh yeah,
he's that afraid of Warrior that he was willing to give up that
he
chance to be in
darted
the Rumble.
out of the arena.
Yeah, that he was like, I'm out. I'm not doing it. Which I don't blame him because I'm afraid that I'd be hurt. Not because he could beat me, but just because it's Warrior. Number 19 was Animal from Legion of Doom. Legion of Doom then eliminated The Undertaker with a double clothesline to a huge pop. Good elimination. Like I think for the time, like that's the way you get Undertaker out. You get two
And they
really
were
big, strong dudes.
and they were a big thing at the time. They were very over.
Yep.
Them doing it together made sense.
Yep. Now the good thing about it, kind of saving the Taker gimmick, is he basically lands on his feet.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, okay. Well,
He
he's
had
eliminated.
He had that going over the top and landing on his feet down perfectly.
Absolutely.
And there's not many big men that were coordinated enough to do that and land to make it look good.
Yep.
But he would land and pop that head up, and you're like, oh shit.
Yep. It was so good.
Yeah.
Hit him and Sean, I believe, like were kind of the two, because Sean would do the one hand spring to the outside.
Yeah.
And so those two, with the way they
Hunter
got
would hook, Hunter would hook the rope and go over like.
Yeah. So we had Crush from Demolition at number 20. This was about the time that Crush joined Demolition, made them a 3-man team instead of a 2-man team. So no
Brian
Coney
Adams,
yet,
wasn't
just Yep. No Coney yet, just Crush. Martel led the match in terms of threatening to be eliminated. It always looked like he was about to go out and he'd find some way to wiggle his way back in. Good little line from Piper to accentuate that. Forget arrogance. He could be bottling endurance. So again, it's one of those, like, he's a face, but he's giving props where it's due. Like he's hanging out, and someone needs to say something good about it. Number 21, Hacksaw Jim Duggan comes out. Of course, the crowd loves him. Everybody loves Hacksaw. If I don't know, there was always something missing. Like he could have been Hogan, but there was just something missing to keep him from getting past the level that he was. Number
I
20.
agree. Yeah, I first of all, I met him when I was a kid. He was so nice.
Yeah, I
Just
can imagine he
very,
was.
just a good guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I never understood it because everybody loved him, but he
Yeah.
was never put in the position. To me, he felt like because he won the first Royal Rumble.
He did.
But he was never put in the position to have the opportunity to carry anything
Right.
other than that 2x4 and Hogan's bag.
And a Canadian flag at one point.
Oh, that's right. I don't understand how you had somebody that was that loved
Mm-hmm.
and he never had a major title run of any kind.
Yeah. It definitely a missed opportunity. I feel bad for a lot of people in this era because like Hogan was it. Hogan was the be all. And unfortunately that means that all the people that could have been in that position were pushed down. And we've seen the stories, we've seen the documentaries. Like Warrior was supposed to be the first one to break past that, and of course, like Warrior was so two-dimensional that the fans didn't grab onto that once he won the title. So maybe that's why they were gun shy going after that of anybody else getting past that point, because like Hogan, all the things we can say about him today was the total package back then. He was
So
good for the brand, good for the kids, good for monetary.
right. No, he is the reason that the WWE is what it is now.
Yeah.
100%. I went and pulled up Duggan's information. So basically, if we start with Mid-South, because that was where the bigger crowds were and so on, he was the Louisiana Heavyweight champion,
Mm-hmm.
the North American Heavyweight Champion, and he was a tag champ twice. He had the WCW TV, and US title,
Yep.
and that was it.
Yep.
Before that, he had some other different titles, but there were much smaller promotions that.
Yeah, so like small indie promotions back when we had the territories.
Right, but like the WCW TV and US title were it.
Yeah, well, and that was he was well past his prime at that point, so there was no way.
He was one of those that it didn't matter if you were in the US and he came out,
mm-hmm.
his pop was huge every time.
Well, and Eric Bischoff joke aside, like he was the guy, like everybody was always behind him, Hose and USA Chants, and like people loved him.
Yeah,
and he just was never able to break past that ceiling.
He was
of being that mid-card guy.
Again, I think it's like you said, though. I mean, it was Hogan's world. They were all just living in at the time.
Yeah. I mean, like, could you imagine if Hogan wasn't there, and like we've talked about, like making a what if type series.
Yeah.
Imagine there's no Hogan. Like, does Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Hillbilly Jim.
With the storyline they were doing at the time, if Hogan's not there, it's Duggan.
Yeah.
It's Duggan.
Absolutely.
There's no chance that he's not the flag bearer, for lack of a better term, especially at that time.
Yeah, the American hero.
With everything that was going on in the Gulf, the Sergeant Slaughter thing, it's 100% Duggan. There's nobody else in that company that carried the flag like he did. And I'm not talking about I'm talking like the US flag.
Yeah.
Like, no, if Hogan's not there, it's Duggan's world. Duggan's a world champion at least once.
I could see that.
Maybe more than once.
Yeah. All right. So number 22, we have Earthquake. Earthquake was one of those, like, he didn't do a lot in the ring, but I always loved to watch him. Yeah.
I love that guy.
And like, I was one of the, I won't say few because I don't know, but like I was, as far as I knew in my personal life, I was one of the few that loved the Natural Disasters.
I didn't.
Like that tag team. Oh,
I was a huge Natural Disasters fan.
Just two big old dudes that just beat
Earthquake and Typhoon. Mm-hmm. I loved them. Yep. Whoever the idea was to put them together, Well done.
Kudos.
Right.
Well, and that storyline too, the storyline of like Tugboat, who's supposed to be Hogan's like best friend, turns his back on Hogan, and they both squash him. Oh my god, so good.
That was so. And it was one of those because everybody loved Tugboat, and then he did
Yeah.
that, and everybody was like, "You bastard!"
Yeah.
Like he instantly made everyone hate him.
And that's another one. Like Uncle Elmer, could you imagine what he could have done? Yes, I called him Uncle Elmer. I had to. But like, what he could have done if Hogan wasn't there? Because people did love Tugboat. Him coming out there and do like people just ate that shit up.
Yeah.
No, that's
Um,
Kevin Nash.
Problem is, I started to say every time anybody does that, all I can hear is The Rock.
Number 3 comes out, Mr. Perfect. Another guy that, God, what he could have done if Hogan wasn't there.
I think this is very much the what if. If Hogan's not there,
yeah.
There's no chance Perfect doesn't have a title run. There's no chance.
I do wonder. So I picked up a little thing on this. There was a moment where Mr. Perfect slapped the shit out of Tenta. And I don't know if something happened, but like
if it was a receipt,
yeah, they were in a corner just staring at each other, and then just 3 times in a row, Perfect slaps the shit out of him. So I don't know. I don't know what happened, but like
curious.
That doesn't seem like a spot to me. That seems like something happened, and he was like, "Look, motherfucker."
Something happened backstage, and that was his receipt.
Yeah.
Or something happened at another time.
Maybe.
And that was his receipt.
The first big bump Piper took was a flip in one of the corners. He was so good at doing that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So doing that little like backflip, flip to the it's so good.
Oh yeah.
The only one that maybe I could say that did it as good was Flair, because Flair kind of perfected that spot.
I felt like he did, but I felt like Perfect's was better because he would do that and then he would just fall into the ring.
Yeah.
Just flop onto his back in the ring, and it was a thing of perfection. It was perfect.
It was. Everything he did was just so spot on. Like I can't think of a bad moment.
I feel like, yes, he's a Hall of Famer, but he is probably one of the most underrated people ever in my book.
So I wouldn't say underrated. I would say he was underappreciated. And that's just like, he should have had so much of a bigger career than what he got.
Again, but you also have to remember his size.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a big guy. So, and Vince and his hard on for big, meaty men slapping meat.
Well, but that's one of those, like, we talk about the Bret Hart era of him being on top. Like, he let Perfect go. I think if Perfect was there during that time, Perfect would have had a world title.
It may have been a here, hold this, but I agree. I think he would have had one.
But so Perfect eliminated Duggan pretty quickly. They do a time check on Valentine. It's been 43 minutes, and Martel is at that point at 40 minutes. The number 24 spot is Big Tan himself, Hulk Hogan. Obviously, biggest pop of the night. Like, people loved Hogan. Shop. People loved Hogan. So Hogan did the 10 punch in the corner to Earthquake. He then was then double teamed, and Earthquake squashed him in the corner. The camera didn't even show anybody else while Hogan was in there. It's the Hogan show at that point.
Like I said, if you what if this and take Hogan out of it, I think we have minimum 10 other major stars.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of bigger stars that we could have had at the time, number 25 was Haku. That man should have won all the belts. Like, if we're talking legitimacy,
that was Ming, wasn't it?
Yeah. He should have won all the titles.
Apparently, from everything I've heard, was a legitimate badass.
It still is, from everything I hear.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Isn't he like 163?
He is. He's a grandpa now, but from what I understand, he's still a badass.
But yeah, every story I've ever heard, they're like, "Oh, you didn't want him getting involved."
No, not at all.
Taker's
Well,
even talked about it. He was like, he was one of the few people that I was
when we talked
a
about
little leery of.
the DX invasion, and like from my understanding, Haku was on the other side of that door. So
Ming was trying to get him like, "Let's go."
let's do this.
And I think that would, like we were talking about, I think that would have been where the wheels fell off.
Yep. Absolutely. Because yeah, if they would have walked in there and Haku like one good shot knocked them the hell out. All right, ball game, we're done. It's over.
Right. I gotta
WCW
go.
wins.
Xbox like I gotta go.
Yep. Um. So Haku comes out. Valentine was tossed out. It was 45 minutes for him. So far he was the longest person in there at the time. He barely made an impact though. When he hit the ground, he just kind of rolled out. Earthquake tried to eliminate Bulldog, but failed. They don't have anybody doing a bunch of eliminations at once. It's just kind of a slow go at this point in the
Right.
match. The final 5 entrances have started, and the first of those is Jim Neidhart at 26. There's a great spot here where Tito was punching Earthquake a lot. He no-sold it and then chucks Tito out. So, flying burrito flew
Yeah.
over the top rope. I should add
Well done.
yeah. I yeah, is what it is. Let's see, number 27, Bushwhacker Luke, and here's where we go with that. So Bushwhacker Luke, he comes in doing the Bushwhacker walk. Earthquake grabs him, throws him out, and then he's still doing the walk on the way out. So
And just 4 seconds
4
was
seconds.
the record at the time, and stood until Santino by Kane.
Yep.
And he wasn't ready, by the way.
Yeah, no, he wasn't ready. The Warlord was in at 29. Warlord went after Bulldog because Vince loves guys and their muscles.
Big, meaty men slapping meat.
Yep. Hogan eliminated Crush.
Hercules was out before that.
Oh, yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Brian Knobbs threw him out.
Yep. Hogan eliminated Warlord with the clothesline. Number 30 spot, it's Tugboat. We have 9 guys left. No more entrants. Shane Douglas got eliminated at this point. The announcers put him
Brian
over.
Knobbs.
Yeah, the announcers put him over. I guess they were planning something for Shane. Whatever.
26. He was in there 26 minutes.
Yeah.
Next one out is
How much longer is this recording going to be?
Well, this is the first recording.
Can
So,
I have a bowl of salad?
yes, you can have a bowl salad if you want a bowl salad.
You don't plan on using the salad?
No, I do not.
So do I use the bag or the box?
I would say the bag. The box is probably bad by now.
Hi again.
hi, honey.
Sorry, it's not too.
That's all right. She said I. 1:33 ish. Okay. Where are we? Okay, so Hogan does a near elimination spot. It was Tugboat who tried to do it, so Hogan threw him out on the other side. Mr. Perfect got eliminated too. Martel then dumped Neidhart. Bulldog backdropped Haku out. I'm pretty sure he got his ass beat at backstage. We got 5 people left. Martel slammed Bulldog, excuse me. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Then goes up top. Bulldog crotched him and clotheslined him out. So for nearly 53 minutes, Martel has the record for it.
52-17.
Yep. So we're at our final 4. Hogan, Earthquake, Bulldog, and Knobbs. Not exactly sure. As we mentioned, Knobbs was here to replace Honky. Honky Tonk Man had quit just before this Rumble, so maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was supposed to be Honky in the last 4, and they just didn't change the whole match for this.
Yeah.
Maybe because Knobs just seems like a weird person to be in the final 4, let alone the final
Yeah.
3.
But knowing it should have been Honky Tonk, that makes way more sense.
Yeah.
They just were like, we're not rewriting this. We're just gonna swap for swap.
Yep.
I mean, overrated white guy either way. So
I definitely, I don't know. To me, there was a lot of other choices of people that were not in the Rumble that probably could have been slipped into this role than a tag team guy, because that to me is what makes it weird. It's a tag team guy.
Right.
Or if you don't want to rewrite the whole thing, if we're pushing Shane for something, or if we're pushing Martel for something,
leave them in.
Yeah, leave one of them
Just
in, because then
swap them places, basically.
Yeah,
the flip side of that, though, is I don't know that Knobs could have gone more than 10 minutes. I'm sure he was blown up after about 3 because he had 6 cheeseburgers and a beer in the back.
And that was just for breakfast.
That was his afternoon snack.
Earthquake and Knobs. Just for the record, I can say that I'm a fat guy. So
I'm a fat bitch too. It is what it is.
I'm not insulting anybody. I'm saying I would have ate 3 cheeseburgers too before I went out there. So Earthquake and Knobs threw out Bulldogs, so now Knobs is in the final 3. Really weird. They worked together, and Quake did the sit down splash on Hogan. The crowd is pretty much dead at this point. Like, they kind of panned around.
I feel like at this point the crowd was pretty gassed.
Yeah. So Knobs pulls Quake up, and they pose for the crowd. And then Hogan does what Hogan does, which is he gets up and hulks up. Does a double clothesline to both of them. Yeah. It is what it is.
I can't stand Hogan.
Hogan did the usual routine with the finger and the whole thing. Face, punch, 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 big boot, another body slam. Hogan, this was after he threw Knobs out, which was kind of just unceremoniously dumps him out. And then he tosses Quake out to give Hogan the victory at 65 minutes and 17 seconds. Hogan wins. Post-match, Hogan must pose, so he posed with the American flag, because we're going to get Slaughter and him at WrestleMania 7.
The reason Knobs was there, him and Hogan were friends.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
That's why he was there.
Second.
Sorry to interrupt so many times with this, but I can't have some. We have no time.
I'm sorry.
Outrageous.
I'm sorry.
Do we not have any extra?
Any extra Italian? If there's no Italian in the fridge, we have no Italian. Like, it's not about having extra. It's we don't have any if there's none in the fridge. I'm sorry.
It's blasphemy.
I'm sorry.
Very angry.
I'm sorry. I can't pull Italian out my ass. So
You wouldn't want it then anyway.
Will it be good tomorrow?
if it's good today, it'll probably still be good tomorrow. So if you're asking me, will I go get some Italian tomorrow? Yes, I can go get some Italian tomorrow.
Are you gonna use this right now?
I'm not going to use it right this second. No. Sure. Okay. We still have 2 more things to record. Can I get back to this now? Okay. Take the ring. That's fine. Go ahead, Gollum.
Just write down those times too.
Yep. All right. So yeah, I mean, we get Hogan doing Hogan things at the end of this. You make a good point. I mean, with Brian Knobbs being a good buddy of his, that makes sense. Him being there. Yeah.
Right. I don't mind doing this. I thought it was fun going back and watching it, but I'm still I don't mind doing these. I just kind of like I have such a disdain for some of these people for various reasons.
Yeah, it does make it hard. Which the thing is, and Nick, I appreciate the comment and I appreciate the thought of us doing this. It was fun to go back to see some of this stuff. So I don't want to throw all the negative at it, but I think that's where this is kind of fun, is because we get to look back on it with different eyes now. At the time, it was 9-year-old Michael, sitting next to his dad watching this pay per view, who was completely enamored with Hulk Hogan and all of his shtick, and now 40 year old Michael, um, I know more one who the
91,
person.
hadn't quite turned 15 yet. So 14-year-old me hated Hogan.
Yeah.
No. I was in my full heel era.
Well, and
I love
yeah,
perfect. Like,
it makes sense. Well, and that's the thing. Like, so to that point, like 9-year-old me, like I appreciate Perfect so much now. Going back and looking
time
to
he
see what he
didn't.
did at the time, no, he was a bastard. Like, he's with that Heenan, and like, and Heenan was horrible, and getting to look at it now with different set of eyes than being innocent
It
9
is.
year old me. It's
It
it's
is.
fun. Yeah, I mean, but I mean, just that's a good point in itself, though, of Brian Knobs being there. The idea that it was nepotism that got him in there, and
There's so much of their career once they left ECW that's all it was. They were
mhm,
Hogan's friends.
yep. That's how they ended up in TNA for that stint. Which, how they were still wrestling at that point, like, fascinates me. But
Yeah, no, I just there's so many of these people that I'm like, oh, if you hadn't turned problematic, I would probably enjoy this more.
so I was thinking, and I think something that would be fun to do these types of things
Okay.
is not rebooking the whole thing,
Okay.
but name a couple of things, not Hogan losing,
Okay.
because I don't think we could broach that at the time.
No.
What are two things you would have changed in this pay per view that you think would have made it a little bit better?
I would have scratched the Mountie Coco Beware match. I'd have done what they did with the tape. I'd have just taken it off.
Okay.
It didn't add anything. We literally had a match that didn't really matter, and Jimmy Hart arguing with a bird.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't disagree. That could have been a Saturday night main event match. That could have been
yes.
like
The other
that
thing
could have been
is,
something else.
because we only got Smash and Crush of Demolition. I'm just kind of looking through these heels and faces. I may have taken a couple of these out
Mm-hmm.
and put in Jannetty and Michaels.
Okay.
Just because they were the crowd pop when they came out and when they hit some of their moveset being what it was, I could see it going well.
Well, and playing double duty wasn't unheard of at the time.
No, it
Because
wasn't often, but
yeah,
they jerked the curtain too. So they've had,
time
depending
to
on when they came out, a
relax
solid 2 hours.
yeah. Well,
Um,
and then you have them come out later in the match. You have them come out like in
right.
the
That's
late
kind of what I was
teens.
looking at was Hawk came in 16th and Animal came in 19th. I would have left them, but Smash and Crush came in at 15 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
There's no chance Sean couldn't have come in at 15 and Marty come in at 20. I think it would have made the match more interesting.
Yeah.
And yes, I own the fact that some of that is my homerism for Shawn Michaels. I'm totally aware of this. But did those two really add? I mean, did they add anything to the match? They
Right.
even eliminate anybody?
Axe and Smash. Get to that tab.
Was it Axe and Smash? I didn't think. I thought only.
Oh no, Smash and Crush. Excuse me, not
Yeah.
Axe and Smash.
I don't think either one of them eliminated anybody, did they?
No, they did not.
So are we really losing anything by taking them out? And like I said,
No.
if we're going 15 in the match, you're looking at minimum 45 minutes into it. They had an hour of a show left. 100% they could have done double duty and duty. Um, but yeah, that would have been the only things I would change.
Okay.
Just because they weren't necessary.
I don't disagree. So I was looking through the roster that they had at the time, because the only thing to me that I look at, I definitely think you're right. I think having them in the Rumble would have been a nice touch. Would have added a different style in there, which might have
Right.
taken some of the lull out of it.
Well, like you said, the crowd was dead at the end.
Yeah. Um, Considering the Nasty Boys at the time were heels, I'm trying to think. So they had IRS at the time. IRS could have went against the Cowboy in the dark match to get Sags in there, because I'm not opposed to Knobs being there. To me, the weird part is that Sags wasn't in there too.
Right.
And so finding a way to get Sags in there, I think would have been fun. They had Hillbilly Jim at the time. Him not being in there, like a crowd favorite like that seems weird to me too. Like him not being in there. I don't know who you scrap for that, especially since like the only person I think I would have scrapped is Shane Douglas, but that's more of a hindsight 2020 thing of like he didn't really go anywhere. So them trying to push him was a failed experiment. I think the only other thing I would have changed, and like obviously it's probably more. Sorry, I just noticed Sir Charles is also a person that's on the roster at the time.
Who?
That's Godfather.
Oh.
I don't remember that. I might have to look up some Sir Charles stuff and see what that was about. But anyway, so yeah, maybe that's just my hindsight 2020 type of thing, is looking at Shane Douglas and going, okay, maybe we don't push him, and maybe we put in a hacksaw or not a hacksaw, excuse me, a hillbilly. So someone would have got a better pop out of that.
Yeah, I agree.
But so let's give it two rankings. 1991 ranking and then a today ranking out of 5.
1991 ranking, I'd probably give it a solid 3.5 to 4.
Okay.
I was a Shawn Michaels homer back then. Yeah. He jerked the curtain. Match was good. They won. Now me, like 0.5.
Ouch.
It's not bad. I just
no. It's fair. It's fair.
There were things that I loved about it.
Yeah.
Like hearing Gorilla Monsoon again warms my soul. Loved Gorilla.
Well, and the commentary in general, they were a good team together, and Roddy was underrated on the mic when it came to being.
I loved Dusty. I always loved Dusty, so that was a plus. Early Dustin is nice.
Yeah,
but I just overall,
I don't disagree. My now ranking, or my then ranking, excuse me, about the same. I think 3.5 out of 4, or 3.5 to 4. I think that's a good spot for that. My then, just kind of thinking, because then I was 9 years old. Of course, it's going to be great. Now, I would say probably maybe 2. Like, I wouldn't go down to 0.5, but I do think, looking at it now, it is a lower ranking. It's not as fantastical as it was back then. But yeah, I think a fair 2 out of 5. But overall, all right. Well, this has been a nice little workaround, like a rewind, rewatch, or results rewatch, or however we want to spin that and say it.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Like I said, it's fun. It's just hard to get past what you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, it's hard to separate like that character then to the real person now. As we find things out about them,
Right.
it's like even if we were to watch later things, if we were to watch like the Stone Cold Vince stuff, like it would be hard to watch Vince now. It would be hard
I
to enjoy that, but
I
probably be a
will
little easier because Stone Cold's whooping his ass. But
right. I was gonna say it wouldn't be that hard just because knowing he's gonna get what he's getting
yeah,
is good. And to me, honestly, he's the same person he was on TV, and I couldn't stand him there either. Like I have
fair enough.
always. This is a whole other rant. I'm just, but yeah, no, the same thing. There's certain people I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
So it
it
was an
may have been
enjoyable
okay. It
experience,
may have been
though.
okay matches, but I don't.
Yeah. I would say it was an enjoyable experience overall. It was fun to go back and kind of think of that time frame, like not just watching the matches, but also like it was the before times before wrestling started to get raunchy, and so the
This is
fact that my daughter,
pre-attitude era.
yeah, the fact that my daughter came in and we're watching wrestling together, and it was wrestling I knew would not be a problem.
Right.
So
Had this
that was
been Royal Rumble '99, that's a different conversation.
yeah.
You're like, pause.
What's a bra and panties match, Dad?
It's exactly what it sounds like, sweetie.
Leave the room. But no, it was a fun experience. If there's any more of these you guys want us to watch, absolutely let us know. I would love to have some fun watching some more stuff like that. So that wraps up this episode. Thanks for spending your time with us. If you're enjoying this podcast, support us, share this episode, share this channel, follow and hit us up on the socials, our
I'm
personal
not trying
socials
to
below.
point today.
Not trying
I'm
to
not trying to point today.
personal socials below, and then the page socials over there to the right. If you're listening
do
to us
that
on
one.
Spotify, leave a
Right.
rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us right here on YouTube at Kicking Out at 2. Until next time, I'm Michael, this is Tori, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.